Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the retirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. Thank you so much for being with us. However you're picking us up on radio, on the podcast, on the stream, however, wherever, I'm just grateful to have anybody listening to us, watching us, however you do it. Thank you so much. Last week, Lucas Ring was back. One of our former students at Michigan State University. He's an amazing guy, and we called that an adaptation because he is, he just graduated. He's a 4.0. He's a honor student. He was a valedictorian at Michigan State. And I mean, the kid's just a brilliant kid. And even brilliant young people need to get a step up, some advice, some tips, some ideas. How do you do these things? That's why we bring a Lucas Ring in, and he still needs tips. What we do is we go find guests like we have today. We're calling this one Transforming College Athletics, the man behind Michigan State University's transformation. Jared Kozinn is going to be our guest. Jared, I got to get your bio up here. Jared Kozinn. He is Deputy Athletic Director, Chief Revenue and Marketing Officer for Michigan State University, where he's responsible for maximizing and diversifying revenue streams within Michigan State athletics. Does that sound like a big job? I mean,
it's an awesome job, and it's an honor to be at Michigan State. I do want to say when it comes to, the real person involved, right? It's a team effort to transform athletics first and foremost. It's the entire athletic department, the coaches, the athletes, the fans, but it really comes down to, Jay Batt and his vision as athletic director. And Tom, that's why I took the job here in the first place.
Well, we're going to talk about this in depth and the whole life journey for Jared, because it's really important for people to understand and to develop that relationship with people. You have to get to know the person. Okay, so Jared Kozinn oversees partnerships, marketing, branding, creative services, just finishing the bio here, sports information and ticketing. Prior to joining Michigan State University, he's been all over the place, mostly in professional athletics. He was vice president for corporate partnerships, premium, and events for the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he's responsible for overseeing the leading sales, activation, and event operations. Big job. While developing and enhancing relationships, just like I just talked about. Relationships are the key to Jared Kozinn. He's held various other corporate partnerships, premium ticketing, leadership roles, organizations in Major League Baseball, National Football League, National Hockey League. Jared, my buddy, grew up in Buffalo, New York. He is a Big Ten guy, graduate from the University of Wisconsin. He's got his JD and M.B.A. from the St. Louis University. That means he's a really smart dude. And we're going to talk about how in the heck Jared Kozinn found himself in this position. I want to welcome to the show Jared Kozinn. Jared, thank you so much for the quick intro there. And let's continue on, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome today.
That's great.
It's a beautiful day outside. The sun is shining in East Lansing.
That's wonderful, man. Wonderful. As we're recording this from our temporary studio in Florida, I can absolutely say, yeah, sunshine's really nice. Let's talk about you, man. Let's talk about your family. This is your life. Let's talk about you, your children, everything. Go ahead. Get warmed up.
My role is obviously Chief Revenue and Marketing Officer in Michigan State Athletics. It's certainly not my identity. I think first and foremost, dad is most important to me. I'm proud dad of Shayna. Shayna Kozinn is 15 years old. Actually, I was just in Orlando last week watching Shayna's and her high school team compete in a national cheerleading competition down there. So that was a lot of fun. And then I have an 11-year-old son named Dane. And Dane, Dane, like a Great Dane, we call him. And great kid, very proud of him. And he's become quite the flag football player. So
what do you think about flag football? I'm just curious about that because it's like you see the ads coming up after the Super Bowl, and I find flag football to be pretty interesting. And some of the athletes that they have out there, what do you think about getting the kids and especially the females involved in flag football?
I think it's a great way for kids to be able to learn the game, learn the strategy, learn the rules. It's great exercise, right? And it's a fun way to do a team sport. And I know there's been a lot of, and I'm not saying I necessarily subscribe to this, but I think there's a lot of professional athletes, college athletes that say flag football is a really great way to play football, especially in your younger years, without the wear and tear that contact football can put on your body. And so Dane has really leaned into flag football, is really enjoying it.
What position does Dane like to play?
I think they like to move him all over the field. So I think he's done a little blocking on the line, and he's done a little pass catching as well.
Let's talk about you a little bit there, Jared. Jared Kozinn's our guest today, everybody. We're calling this one Transforming College Athletics. It's a big, big job. It's a different world that we live in. I was just mentioning a book to Jared that Roy Simon had given to me, The Price, and it's talking about college athletics. And it was written 2 years ago. As I mentioned it to Jared, and I'm finding it fascinating, all of this behind the scenes stuff. But to Jared, he's like, it's 2 years old. The landscape is changing so fast, so quickly. It's like you need people like you. Kind of give everybody a quick snapshot on that whole thing. Then we'll talk about you personally and how you found yourself in this role throughout the show. But talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a House hearing that was announced July 1, and everything that we had known from the infancy of NIL up until that time changed. And there's a cap requirement, and there's a clearinghouse that's responsible for above the cap NIL and specific rules to be able to have properly go through the correct NIL process for athletic departments. And so, look, I think NIL has evolved a lot since its infancy a few years ago. And where we're at today, I would expect that it's going to continue to evolve. And to, Jay's credit and John Palumbo on our team and several others, we are taking a very nimble approach. As college athletics evolves, as NIL evolves, we want to be positioned where we can switch gears very quickly, learn the new rules, regulations, guidelines, opportunities, and be able to react to those things and optimize the experience for our student athletes, for our corporate partners, our donors, and our fans.
Jared Kozinn is our guest today, everybody. Transforming College Athletics. We're going to talk mostly today about Jared and his journey. So if you have students, if you're curious about people, this is a gentleman who has gone through it all. Set it up, Jared. I mean, you got your undergrad and your graduate work done. We got about a minute to go before we go to break here, but set it up where we're going to take this thing, because you did all of the academic things in the right order, and then things changed. But go ahead, set it up that way.
Yeah, I think growing up in Buffalo, New York, sports is very woven into the fabric of the community there, right? If the Buffalo Bills lose on Sunday, the town is very depressed on Monday. It's just, that's a fact of life in growing up in Buffalo. And conversely, when the Bills win on Sunday, even if it's cold in the fall and the winter, everything seems a little bit warmer following a win. And that was a great environment to grow up in, because sports became very, very important to me. My family's always been about sports, mom and dad. My grandparents were all about sports. And I always knew early on I wanted to work in sports, and was fortunate enough to go to undergrad at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Big Ten institution, big time college sports. So to be able to get to experience Big Ten athletics as a student was a really, really that really helped me understand the similarities and differences between the fan bases and what athletics can mean, not just to an athletic department or a fan base, but to an entire university. And then following graduation, I went off to St. Louis University, where I did my law degree and my M.B.A., and happy to talk about that more after the break. Cool.
Jared Kozinn's with us. Perfect. The guy knows what he's doing. He's been on radio. He's done media before. Transforming College Athletics. The NIL transfer portal game that's out there now is so up in the air. We need to get to know the people that are behind the scenes. How did they become who they are? That's why we're going to have Jared on and talk about his process. But it is about the process. It's all about, how do you become a Jared Kozinn, a professional that is in this role now where people are searching for him, and you have headhunters out there looking for a Jared Kozinn. Do you want to be a guy like a Jared Kozinn? I think you do, because this guy's a successful cat and he gets it done. Once again, Jared Kozinn's with us, Transforming College Athletics. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Matt Show. Thank you for joining us this week. Thank you, Sandy, for bringing us back. The only time she ever does radio is on that bumper, and that's it. Transforming college athletics. These episodes with my friends from Michigan State University, the knowledge people, the knowers, the shakers, people that are out there that are doing the heavy lift. That's why we do these shows. I want to mention Brock Fletcher and the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. Got a production meeting coming up next week with Brock and the team. Please call Brock. 517-853-6408 is the office number. Here is his big number that he wants you to use. Please text him, leave him a voicemail. Emails, doesn't want to really deal with that too much. He'd rather get to you quickly. 517-303-3262, 517-303-3262. Go online to kwsellingteam.com, Sell your home without hassles. Selling team of Keller Williams Realty. You guys have heard me say this story 100 times, 200, 500 times. How Brock helped us. Mike Dedman helped us when we had Big House Holt. We had that giant house where we had so much overhead and nobody living there except Sandy and I. How to get rid of it, how to do the right thing, how to get into Little House Lansing, how do we do these things? You need the professionals. You need to find the people that can really help you. Brock Fletcher's the guy. Brock Fletcher's the guy. Brock Fletcher's the guy. I want to say also thank you to Joan Wright. She's a fan of the show. She listens to us on WKAR on Sundays at 5. She's a customer of Brock's, and she likes the show, and I'm so happy to have her, and I'd like to mention Joan's name every show now. Since Brock told me about Joan, Joan's now kind of our surrogate mom to the show, I guess you could say, or fan of the show, whatever you want to say. Again, Brock Fletcher, 517-303-3262. He's the man. We love him, and he's taking great care of us, and he will take good care of you. Our guest today is Jared Kozinn. Jared's a newbie to the show, and he's new to Michigan State University, transforming college athletics. All right, my man. Gave everybody a quick snapshot on Shayna and Dane and the family and how they're doing, and that's great. Congratulations on being a good dad. And that whole cheerleading thing down in Florida with your daughter must have been a riot. Saw your pictures. That's the thing about having people like you who, I'm a big girl dad myself. I admire guys who are girl dads. You put that time in. You're so busy, but you're down there supporting your daughter. So good job, man. Way to go.
That was one of what I assume will be a big memory for her, and it made a big memory for me as well. That's
it. I mean, with kids, it's nice to buy them things, but it's the best thing to do is create memories. All right, let's talk about transforming college athletics and creating memories. All right, Jared Kozinn finds himself in this very unique position. Talk about your job a little bit, and then let's just start with college, high school, however you want to start this thing. How did Jared Kozinn become Jared Kozinn? But first, let's talk about your role a little bit. Just give everybody a snapshot of what you're new to the gig, your time at Michigan State. How do you like Michigan State?
It's fantastic. It's everything I hoped it would be, and then some. It's an awesome, East Lansing's an awesome town. I live in Okemos, right down the road. So it's an easy commute into work every day. I'm blessed with amazing teammates in the athletic department. I've connected with so many awesome people on the university campus, connected with folks like yourself, Tom. And I really think our athletic facilities, our student athletes, our opportunities here are top notch. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to take a top-notch operation and, make it competitive across the college landscape in every sport. And that's what's really exciting.
Good to hear that. You bring people in from all over the country, and Michigan State is really about family. And if you've been around the university at all, you will know, as I taught the Spartan Experience class for like 7-8 years when I was still full-time employee out there, it's all about family. All right, it's all about family. Jared, let's talk about you now. Family, getting to know you. You just said you're from Buffalo. You said that in a previous segment. You're an athlete. We'll talk about that down the road a little bit here with your training and how that keeps you sharp. But let's start at the beginning. When you were in Buffalo growing up, what was the plan? I mean, let's talk about you as a young person. What was your dream?
It was interesting. I grew up and my dad's a cardiologist. And so, watch him work from a medicine perspective. And, maybe I thought maybe I wanted to do that. My grandfather was an attorney. That work seemed really interesting. My other grandfather was a dentist. So I had lots of different traditional professions kind of in mind. I had a really interesting experience when I was growing up. My dad, I was probably 16, had just gotten my driver's license. And my dad, we all did Taekwondo together. And my dad ended up tearing up his rotator cuff in Taekwondo, had to get surgery. So it was like the summer, I just turned 16. He wasn't going to be driving for a few weeks and said, well, you're off for the summer. So your new job is to drive me around when I got to go see patients, get to the hospital. And so he was on call. That meant I was on call. And so there were several times where, my dad came in at 2:00 in the morning. I said, a hospital call, we got to go in. And so I'm doing rounds with him in the hospital. And I think that was like an epiphany moment for me where I said, I don't know that I like this. And I really am grateful that there's amazing doctors out there, but I don't know that this profession's for me. And so, I always loved school, always had pretty good grades and was always what I'd call intellectually curious. So liked learning and had a great experience at Wisconsin. Knew I wanted to go to law school, was never really certain that I wanted to be a practitioner. My grandfather practiced family law, and we would talk about the pros and cons of it. But one of the things that my grandfather also talked about is that, nowadays you go to law school and people don't just like hang a shingle and practice law or join a big firm, right? There's so many opportunities that can present themselves with a law degree, and particularly competitive industries, it can be a differentiator. And so during law school, I was making phone calls, sending emails, reaching out to personal contacts, anything I could do to get more knowledge about what the sports industry could look like. And was fortunate enough to land an internship with the then St. Louis Rams. And that was kind of my first foray in the sports business.
So did you already have, Jared Kozinn is our guest today, everybody, Transforming College Athletics. Did you already have an inkling to go into the sort of the sports end of business when you were in college? You already had that sort of vibe in your heart?
I didn't know what it looked like. I knew a couple people growing up, some family friends that had worked in the sports industry, but Wisconsin at the time, they didn't have a sports management program. A lot of these programs that were existing at the time were in their infancy. And so I didn't know, I knew I wanted to do something around sports, but I didn't know what those opportunities looked like. The old, the great Lou Holtz always said, find something you like to do, find something you do well, find someone to pay you to do it. I was very passionate about the sports industry. And, I think the people, when you look around in whatever profession it is, whether it's doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers, the people that are the best at whatever they're doing in their profession, they're passionate about their work. And so I wanted to find something that I knew I'd be really, really passionate about. And I didn't know that at the sports. I didn't know what the sports business was at the time, but certainly glad that I discovered it during my internship with the Rams.
Jared Kozinn is our guest today, Transforming College Athletics. He's a typical college student, and he finds himself in these other roles. Transforming College Athletics. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate everyone who watches, listens, even if you take the 1-minute clips that Vanessa chops up for us, which, by the way, thank you, Vanessa. She's our virtual assistant, does a wonderful job for us, along with Mitch Anderson, our audio production crew. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for taking the time, because everybody's life is busy, busy, busy. We want to bring value to you. We want to bring people that are worth your time. Again, like a Brock Fletcher and the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. Remember I said, you call the office, 517-853-6408. You call Brock's cell phone number, you leave him a message, 517-303-3262. You leave him a voicemail, you leave him a text. He will get back to you that day. In his voicemail, which he changes every day, he will let you know, I'm returning calls between 4 and 6. I'm returning calls between 1 and 3. The guy's a total pro. That's why you want to deal with Brock and his whole team at the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. And again, like I've said, he helped us. He hit the number on Big House Holt when we weren't even planning on selling our house. We got into Little House Lansing when the market's just red hot and everybody's like cutting each other's throats for property. And we got in thanks to Mike Dedman. Mikey, you're the bomb. And now we have this great relationship with kwsellingteam.com. That's kwsellingteam.com. That is Keller Williams Realty, the selling team with Brock Fletcher. And Brock is just such a good guy. Call him. Listen to any of our episodes on our website. He's been on the show like 25 times over the last 6-7 years. Go listen. All of them are free. Reality of Real Estate. Just look at Reality of Real Estate. There's going to be questions there. You may see that you have something that you're pondering. Go scope it out. Away you go. Again, call Brock, 517-303-3262. Today, Jared Kozinn, really happy to have a new friend, good guy, gym rat, par excellence. We'll talk about that here later. Transforming college athletics. This landscape that is happening now with big time, all of college sports, but especially Division I and the Power 5 conferences is incredibly, to be alive at this time. Don't fight it, everybody. Don't get upset. Deal with it because it's here and it's going to continue to change. But what we need is smart people like Jared, because with Jay Batt and Jared and the team that they have over at Michigan State University, good things are coming. So let's talk about you and your journey in college before we get into Jay and talking about your relationship with your colleagues. Let's talk about you some more with college. My question to you, Buffalo man, Wisconsin, did you ever think about Michigan State?
I didn't think about Michigan State. I'll tell you what, I went to a small private school in Buffalo called the Nichols School, and they called us 8-year survivors, meaning there's a middle school campus and there's a high school campus. And it's a small school. My graduating class was 103 kids. And, top of the class, kids will go to Ivy League institutions, and everyone else really kind of goes to small East Coast liberal arts colleges is mostly where kids are going, right? And a lot of great schools. And I looked at a lot of those schools, and I thought I really wanted something different. I wanted a sports environment. I wanted a bigger atmosphere, more to do, right? I had a leadership, and I'm not going to name the school because it's a lovely school, but there's a school that I thought I wanted to do that was a small East Coast liberal arts college. I spent a couple of weeks there in the summer doing a leadership training. And I just was like, I can't see myself in a small environment. So it did change kind of how I looked at my college options. And I had a college counselor that's like, well, it sounds like University of Wisconsin would be like a great school. I'm like, Wisconsin? Coming from what's in Wisconsin? And I visited Madison. It was one of those days, and we have them here in Michigan too, right? Where it was spring break. So I spent some time in Florida with some friends and high school friends, and then was going to meet my parents to look at Wisconsin. And it was one of those days in mid-March where it's like the first 70-degree day of the spring and the sun's out and we're walking up and down State Street. And I was like, this is fantastic. I had no idea that a school like this existed. And I made the decision that day, then and there, that I was going to go to college at Wisconsin. And, there's a lot about Michigan State that reminds me of Wisconsin, the passion of the student body. The similarities, I'd say the biggest similarity between those two institutions, there's other schools, I'd say even in the Big Ten, where there's, academic focus at Michigan State, and Wisconsin's fantastic. But there's like very few people you meet that are Wisconsin graduates, that are Michigan State graduates. They're not going to be very proud of where they went to school. And that there's like a tie to sports. Like it's just, if you graduate from Michigan State, you bleed green. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that reminds me a lot of Wisconsin, where I have friends that have gone to other institutions and kind of lukewarm on the sports and the fanhood, but not at Michigan State for sure.
Here's the thing with the Big Ten, everybody. And if you're listening to this and you're in Washington or you're in Vermont or something, the Big Ten is very, very unique. And Wisconsin and Michigan State are very similar. I got to ask you about your first experience in the jump around time at the stadium, because I've worked games at Wisconsin Stadium before, and that place is a football nirvana. I mean, when it's happening, it's happening. How many times were you part of that, or were you ever part of that?
Well, many. A fun story about that, and it ties into kind of what we're doing here at Michigan State, right? So, whether you're a Wisconsin fan or not, right? I think people widely regard the jump around as a unique ritualistic experience in college athletics, right? And was part of it many times. In fact, in 2004, Camp Randall Stadium was undergoing a massive renovation, and they made the announcement they weren't going to play jump around. And after the third quarter, when they normally play it, the student body went berserk. And we did our own rendition of the jump around, where we sang it and we jumped and did it anyways, because they didn't want the bouncing on the bleachers, right, during the renovation. And they must have had some engineers or somebody cleared it to be able to say it was going to be okay, because the following game it returned. And I'm telling you, that took like what I think was a already really strong ritual, and the organicness of it just made it an exceptional thing that, has really kind of taken on a life of itself. And that's, what Badger fans live for. There's opportunities like that at Michigan State, right? And I think
how do we create that at Michigan State?
It happens organically. It does. I think there's opportunities for administrators to kind of lean in when they see these opportunities, say this could be that moment, right? But when we have a lot of rituals at Michigan State, our senior days, our seniors kissing the floor at our last regular season home game at MSU, and that's a ritual that happened organically a long time ago. That's a tradition that continues on. We have a lot of these things. I think it's how do you find the organic things that fit our institution, fit our athletic programs, fit our student body, that just can take on a life of their own and magnify. But I think the attempts to, make those that aren't authentic, it doesn't really ever seem to fit. Having moved from Pittsburgh, I'll tell you, I really think the Steelers and when they play Styx's song Renegade, just another ritualistic thing that happened very organically. They weren't trying to make it into a thing. The players bought into it. The coaches bought into it. The fans bought into it. And now, Renegade's taken on a life of itself.
This is what we want at Spartan Stadium. This is what we're going to have at Spartan Stadium with a guy like a Jared Kozinn, a Jay Batt running the show over there. We've got some really smart young people coming from me. You're all young. But, I mean, we need this young, new talent to come in, and Jared Kozinn is the kind of guy that's going to help us get there. Jay Batts brings in Jared. I mean, it's a very interesting dynamic that we have at Michigan State, transforming college athletics. All right, Jared, we're going to go to break here in a second. We're going to talk about grad school and how in the heck you go to grad school, you get an M.B.A., you get a J.D., and then you wind up as an intern. That story in itself, everybody, this is good for students, because to become humble when you think you're going to go out there and make your $200,000 a year because you just got a couple of degrees, get ready for this story, because this is a guy who he was there and he did this, and he will tell you the story and then some. Jared Kozinn's here, fun guy, transforming college athletics. This is the Tom Matt Show.
This segment of the Tom Matt Show is brought to you in part by the Source of Light and Power by band leader Ark of All and broadcaster Mitch Anderson. Hear the sound that is endorsed by Odyssey headphones, linear tube audio, RME converters, and Peluso microphones at sourceoflightandpower.bandcamp.com.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. This week's episode of the Tom Matt Show, coming to you from beautiful Southwest Florida. When you do a podcast or a radio program, you want to create content, try to make yourself portable so that you can be very nimble, so that you can be flexible. My guest today, Jared Kozinn, has talked about navigation of the unknown, the nimbleness. You want to do this with what we do. How would you like people, Jared, how would you like people to connect with you and your programs and all of that? What's the easiest way for people to learn more about this?
I'd say with me, one of the tools I've always used that I really found helpful from a business networking perspective is LinkedIn. So feel free, if you're a listener and you're interested in connecting, feel free to reference the Tom Matt Show. Happy to connect with you. Like I said, new to East Lansing, somewhat new to Michigan State still, and always looking to connect with great people and loyal Spartans. And then, one of our programs that we launched shortly after my arrival, and this is really, really important for the future of Michigan State and for the legacy of Michigan State. We launched the Force Sparta initiative. It's a capital initiative for Michigan State athletics, and it's the most ambitious of its kind. It's a $1 billion goal, and we're off to a great start. Very, very grateful for incredible donors, and Greg and Dawn Williams made a historic commitment that's very well documented to Michigan State athletics and to MSU. And we need more. We have a big goal to climb. We've got facilities that are going to be part of this master plan that are going to benefit every student athlete. We've got a lot of work to do on our major facilities, including Spartan Stadium and Breslin Center, to make them not just great for the fan experience and the student athletes, but we really want to update those facilities to be legacy facilities in college athletics. And the First Sparta initiative is going to be everything to help us get there. And you can learn more information at forsparta.net.
forsparta.net. I'll put that on the show recap, everybody, so that you can get there. And believe me, Jared's going to be back. Jared Kozin's our guest today, Transforming College Athletics. When I met Jared, thank you to the Simons for introducing me, I knew immediately that I wanted to get to know Jared and promote what they're doing and as soon as we talked, I said, I got to get to know this guy. You really want to get to know Jared Kozinn. Good guy, straight shooter, smarter than heck. Let's talk about being smart, because he might not have felt too smart when he finished his law degree and his M.B.A. following Madison. Nice job there, big boy. So let's continue the story, because when you told me this when we had our meeting, I was like, wow, so many students want to come out with, after all that time in college, 3 degrees later, and they want to make their 100, 200 grand right out of the chute. And you decided to go a different direction, and it paid off. So let's take it from there. You're in graduate school, you're finishing grad school, and then what happened?
Well, you mentioned like wanting to be smart, right? Like, I think for me, like, there's a lot of times that people have, I find comfort in discomfort. A lot of people like to be the smartest guy in the room. I like to find rooms where I'm never the smartest guy. And, that was Wisconsin. It was academically very challenging. Had a pretty rigorous legal studies major. It was, we were competing with most people that have a legal studies degree. It's really designed. It's a pre-law major designed to prepare you for law school. So competitive. And then, law school was put in a room with lots of super smart people. And it's the same competitive drive that I have today. It was new, it was different, but I was going to compete. And business school is the same thing, and the M.B.A. program, especially at St. Louis University, is a great business school program, but I hadn't taken accounting 101 and finance 101. I was jumping into M.B.A. level courses, right? And had to figure it out. And so I had to put in the extra time to learn and get through it, and also surrounded myself with great colleagues and friends that helped me get through it. A lot of those people I'm friends with today.
Let me ask you a question, because it's a lot of students listen to our show. We have a lot of students on the radio program. Jared Kozin's our guest today, everybody, Transforming College Athletics. Did you do your MBA and your JD, your law degree simultaneously, or did you do one and then the next? How did that work?
It's a great question. So when I started law school, I went to law school without the intention to do both programs. And as it turned out, when I arrived at St. Louis University, and they've since built a new law school. So it used to be the law school was right across the street from the business school. And I'm a weightlifter, a guy that likes to eat a good lunch, and they had a nice little cafe at the business school. So I remember going over there for lunch with a couple law school colleagues and grabbing lunch, and I saw some information about the JD MBA program, just literally on an old school bulletin board. And one of the guys I was having lunch with was interested in doing that. I said, let's pop in the admissions office and learn more about this. And we did. And we became good friends. Tom McGinty, still good buddy of mine to this day. We went through the law school M.B.A. program together. So what it was is a 4-year program at the time. Completed our first year law school requirements, and law school pretty much across the country, it's the same core classes wherever you go. It's those first year, they call them the 1L classes. And then the whole next year, the next fall and spring was all business school. So I was across the street the entire time and not with my law school colleagues. And then years 3 and 4 was really interesting and challenging because I could go from taking an evidence class at the law school, and I'd walk across the street to the business school and totally change gears and take a brand marketing class. So definitely stretched me intellectually, stretched me from a time management perspective. And in a lot of ways, that experience, just being so busy and having a lot on my plate, prepared me for this role.
Exactly. And this is the whole thing about performance, everybody. You have to get used to the performance. And when you can get the habit, you can establish a routine, and it's just like going to the gym. It's the same thing over and over and over. That's where when I meet all these students at Michigan State University at the gym in the morning, the early morning kids, they're going to be high achievers, just like Jared. Jared mentioned that he worked out this morning. We'll talk about that in the next segment here. We want to talk about that exclusively. Let's talk about that jump. Now you could have went and got you're hanging out, you're going to hang that shingle, and then you got some advice. And how did you feel when you got that advice to do the internship in the sports world? Well,
what it really came down to was, my parents had really instilled in me, like, just do what you want to do. Do what's going to make you passionate. They never, a lot of times if you go to law school, there's like this pressure that, well, you went to law school, you got to, be an attorney. That's the natural path. And I had clerked a summer and just wasn't moved or inspired by the work. It was good work, and I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I enjoyed the law, but I saw in law school, I saw the students that I thought were going to make the best attorneys were the ones that weren't like, I'm a good test taker, right? I can learn a lot of information and I can then take a test on it and perform pretty well. But the people that were going to be exceptional lawyers were the ones that they were doing the extra reading, the extra study. They just really loved it and were passionate about it. And I knew it was going to be important for me to find something I was passionate about. And so very fortunate to get an internship with the St. Louis Rams. And it was a great experience. I had some mentors that I worked with at the Rams. And Lisa was Boaz. Lisa Woodward's now recently left to start her own consulting firm. Recently left Anheuser-Busch, but she was a executive at Anheuser-Busch for a long time in their sports marketing division. And Chad Watson, who was at the Rams for a long time, and the Packers for a long time, is with the Anaheim Ducks now. These were mentors of mine that I got to kind of see the work that they do in the corporate partnership space, learn from them. I had a lot of mentors that were willing to kind of help me along the way. And I really wanted to get involved in corporate partnerships and do that full time. And at the time, it was an interesting time for the Rams. Their owner had just passed away, Georgia Frontier. The family at the time, the Rosenblum family, was selling their majority stake to Stan Kroenke, who was the minority owner, to really take a majority position. And the team had just gone like 1-15. It was an interesting time for the Rams. They were long past the Super Bowl era. And so they were able to make an introduction to me to a mentor who I just actually talked to yesterday. And that was life-changing for me.
I want to learn everything that I can from him on the NIL and the transfer portal and all of these things, and help other people understand these things. But it's his story that is so fascinating that made me really want to get to know the man. He's done the hard work. He's done the heavy lift. He knows how to do the work, and he knows how to transfer that knowledge. Transforming college athletics with Jared Kozinn. Got some fun things to talk about. We'll continue the professional journey right after this. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3255. 888-888-6262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome to the Tom Matt Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tom Matt Show. As I have said before many times, if you saw the outtakes from our in-between breaks, it's pretty interesting and pretty hilarious. And, you know, I do drop a lot of language occasionally, but that's just me. But talking to Jared Kozinn and about his journey, and it's so fascinating. Some of our guests that we have, they're so smart, so interesting. Jared Kozinn's with us, Transforming College Athletics. All right, so we got you to the Rams. You sort of glossed over you in your humility. I got the impression when we had our meeting that you were really hesitant about this internship after you finished college because you were how old? Maybe 23, 24 years old. You're ready to work. And so go ahead.
The internship was during my last year of law school, right? So I was still in school then. I'd say what I was really hesitant, Tom, was my first job in sports. That was the one that I really didn't know. So I thought I wanted to get a job in sponsorship, and the Rams politically, they were not in a position with ownership change and coming off the year they had and some restructures that were happening. They weren't in a position to bring me on board in a full-time role. And I think one of the things I would encourage all interns to do is build relationships with staff, build a network, stand out and be different, right? There's a lot of interns that I've seen in my almost 20 years now in professional sports that, they're not memorable, the majority of them, right? But the ones that stand out, you want to help them get a job. You want to continue to stay in touch with them. And I just tried to do the best I could to deliver a good work product and build relationships because that's what this business is. And I was fortunate enough to get referred to take a meeting with, and I asked him for a meeting. Guy's name's Eric Stisser. So Stiss had worked for the Rams previously and had joined the St. Louis Blues maybe a year or two earlier. And so it was a referral trying to get in the sports business. And Eric took a meeting with me and we hit it off right away. We're good friends. Eric was actually at a Michigan State game this year, came for a visit. We had a great time together, and we're on the steering committee together for the National Sports Forum, which is held in St. Louis here in about 10 days. So Eric's a lifelong friend and mentor, but Eric took a call with me, liked me, and didn't have a role in sponsorship at the time, the smaller department, and I needed a job coming out of school. And so I had some opportunities in the law, could have said, gone and been a practitioner, and there were some opportunities to explore, but Eric connected me to the head of ticket sales at the time. And they had a ticket sales executive, an account executive role selling tickets. And I didn't know what that meant, Tom. I thought that meant you stood behind a box office window and said, here are your 2 tickets, sir, enjoy the game today. And there is a box office component of ticketing, but the data, the strategy, the relationship building with clients, the sales process, the work ethic, the opportunities that being a revenue generator in professional sports, I didn't know about any of that stuff. And had another mentor who, ironically enough, I also talked to yesterday, named Theo Hodges, who's now an executive with the Dallas Mavericks. Theo met with me, and Theo, as he tells the story, rarely tries to convince people to work in ticket sales because you really got to want it because it is such a grind. I was so unsure about it, but he saw, I guess, that if I got into it, I'd like it and that I'd be successful at it. It can convince me to take a leap of faith. And I didn't know anything about ticket sales, but I said, I'll be the best darn ticket sales person they hired and really commit myself to the craft and the profession. And it was, deciding to sell tickets for the St. Louis Blues after law school and after passing the bar exam, instead of going and practicing, it was the best decision for me personally that I ever made, and was life-changing and set me down a path for a career in sports.
And you continued with your career in sports. In my notes from our lunch, I have a fun story little thing that I checked off, and I want to pick your brain a little bit here because maybe my notes are a little bit off, but fun story. And I had starred the name Chad Estes. and then I had Alex Shiner from the Cowboys on there, and you were talking about a company called Elevate and Legends, and you had a story that you shared about something along the sports business that you knew with these guys.
Different companies. I think the genesis of it, there's a couple people in the sports industry that really good at what they've done. They've become executives in at their respective sports teams. But they had interest in, creating companies and using their resources and access. And there are people I admire in our business. Chad Estes, he runs Legends, and him and Alec were executives at the Cowboys, and they started that company after all the learnings of the sales process of running the Dallas Cowboys' new stadium project, right, which was a long time ago. And Legends has now blossomed into a very successful full-service agency where they've bought up. It's not just a premium sales company; they've bought up sponsorship divisions, and they've bought up companies that run buildings and operations and management. And Elevate's done the same. I met during my time with the 49ers, Al Guido, a mentor, a friend, a guy I look up to a lot. Al worked for Legends, which was responsible for the new selling and servicing the new stadium project when I was with the 49ers from 2011 to 2013. And Al, brilliant guy, one of the hardest working people I know in the industry. He had his own vision for a company one day. And after becoming, I think he was the COO and then the president of the 49ers, he launched Elevate, his own agency. And so Al continues to he was just named CEO of elevated from president to CEO of the 49ers. But he's also, founding member of Elevate, a full service agency that I have a lot of respect for. And so when I talk about some of these executives that I really look up to in our business, certainly the ability to kind of climb the ranks on the team side, the school side, right? Really, really cool. But I've also admire a lot of their entrepreneurial spirit to be able to think really, really big and to dream really, really big and to be able to build companies and find opportunities in our sports business to not just impact their own organization, to be able to make such a positive impact on others.
The question I have for you is that transferring of that business knowledge from the professional aspect into kind of a nascent area of college athletics where you have all of this experience, but we have very little in the institution itself or across the board nationally. We just don't have the models. And so we need you guys to help us with this, because in my notes I have here the platform of sports and the impact on communities and the imprinting of people. But you really want to bring more value to like our season ticket holders. Talk about that a little bit. We got about 3 minutes to go before we're going to wrap this thing, but just want to get your impact on what the platform of sports and how we can impact people's lives.
Yeah, I think Jay has referenced in kind of the formation of Spartan Ventures, commercializing collegiate athletics, right? Commercializing athletics at Michigan State. And all that means is really kind of taking a deep business-minded approach to athletics. I think for a long time, college athletics, it sold itself in a way that it needed to, right? It generated plenty of revenue, and the model was, as long as butts were in seats and athletic departments weren't bleeding expenses, like the model kind of worked at that time, right? For a really long time. And it started to change a little bit before that. But then NIL really changed the game. And now college athletics, you're going to see more and more institutions, I believe, do what Michigan State's going to be a leader in, is commercializing the business. So there's just certain processes, whether it be in tickets or corporate partnerships, or any of the revenue streams, really, for that matter, that are best practices and tried and true that work in the professional ranks. And, while there's a lot of differences in college athletics, there's a lot of similarities, right? People are still buying tickets and having a fan experience. Sponsorship is similar in the sense that, there's earned media components, there's in-stadium components, there's social media components, there's radio and broadcast components. And so taking a refined, professional, commercialized look at all these areas and trying to identify opportunities where we can bring some of those best practices to the college space is really what my focus has been.
Can you give me a 1-minute takeaway, Jared, from your first visit to our show, please?
I appreciate the time and the questions, and I appreciate your willingness to want to get to know me and making me feel so welcome to Michigan State and to the East Lansing community. I think, if I was to give a takeaway for, any of the listeners, find that passion. If you're, a student or if you're a young person that's looking to get into the sports industry or any industry, find and follow the thing that you're going to be passionate about. And for, folks that maybe aren't students or maybe older in their career and are thinking about making a career change or go for it. Just go for it because you live once, right? And I think a lot of times we worry about what can go wrong instead of focusing on what could go right. Be open and willing to look, and if there's a change that you want to make in your life, whether it's a career change, a physical change, go for it. That'd be my takeaway.
That's Jared Kozinn, Transforming College Athletics. He will be back. He's got a lot to add to us. We'll be having some meetings and meeting some students and other people across mid-Michigan. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests like a Jared Kozinn. Sponsorships are available. Let us know. It's got to be a good fit. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Always remember, you have to love yourself first. Thank you to Sandy, Brock, Jared for being on the show today. We'll talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. And thank you again to Mitch Anderson and Vanessa, our production staff, for what they do. We are out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Arc of All.